Well, we're back. We took the intro gets somebody every time.
Where did we go?
We're back. You're a drummer. You don't remember. We took that used Goodyear blimp we bought on eBay. We went down to the Caribbean for vacation because you wanted to learn steel drums with Calypso band.
Yeah, I resemble that remark.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Sure, we did that.
And had we known one of our guests is in Aruba, we could have picked him up and brought him back with us.
He don't want to be where he's at right now. He's in the airport, and he's a little PO'd right now because he can't get home.
I don't know, between being stuck at the airport or stuck between Greg and I. But anyways, there's Greg. And
Hi, guys. How you doing?
We're very glad to welcome, after you found the place, thankfully, Carla Coots. Hello, Carla.
Hi.
Great photographer. Did a bunch of pictures.
Thanks for the drive-in, too, and everything, coming in that whole way. I complain about coming in for... like 20 minutes these days because the show in Webster. I'm like, it's in Webster. I don't want to go that far. And we have, you get to that age. It's like, okay, is it down my block?
She got to the fork in the road.
And we have our own Stevie T's back with us, and he can introduce our guest who isn't stuck in Aruba.
Hi, kids. Yeah, well, we got Carla, of course, which you just mentioned, and John Dretto, who's a very popular music promoter here in Rochester, and we're happy to have John with us today.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
So we were going to talk about the dogs, and you could fill in for our missing guest.
Yeah, so tell us about the dogs and what you're involved with.
Did you let them out?
Yeah, and it's DAWGS, dogs.
Dogs.
How about the dogs?
Dogs up.
And just to be clear, Steve Ball, who's the co-founder of the dogs, is stuck in Aruba. Otherwise, he would have been here. So Steve T twisted my arm and said, "You got to do it." And I said, "Okay, I just hope I don't bore the hell out of everybody."
So you got a lot going on.
Yeah. So the dogs are unique in the sense that they're Rochester's rock and roll party band, and they take no compensation. They 100% of the proceeds from all the events they do go directly to Rochester area nonprofits, and they're ESL Jefferson Award winners, which is a very prestigious award.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, they went to the Nationals. That's how well they're regarded.
Wow.
They've got an award from Holy Childhood, from Honor Flight, One Soldier at a time. And I met Steve at Tom Bruce's place, 75 Stutson Street. We were doing a promotional video for Music of the Stars, which is another band I work with. And Tommy said, hey, there's a guy here I want you to meet. Maybe you guys could get together and do something. So he introduced me to Steve. We hit it off, and we've been working together for about 3 years. And one of the things that I've been able to help a little bit is in their money-raising efforts. They've done a lot of smaller shows, and they raise a good amount of money, but it's just as much work to raise $2,000 as it is to raise $10,000.
Right.
So what we've been able to do in the last couple of years is really assist Rochester nonprofits in raising more money for the same amount of work.
So are they like all Bruce Wayne guys? Or, I mean, are they all got big jobs or big incomes?
They all work, and they do well enough that not only can they pay for free, but they pay for all their own gear, their sticks, their strings, their heads.
Wow.
They're not subsidized by anybody. And if there's anybody out there that would like to help subsidize the dogs, contact me. They really could use some help. But again, they take it on the chin, but they raise a lot of money. They got big hearts, and I can't say enough about
that's
them.
great. No, I think that's an awesome philanthropic.
So how do these gigs work? Do you solicit, or people come to you, or a little bit of both?
Actually, yeah, it's a little bit of both. What's happened is there's about 35 or so Rochester area nonprofits that they've worked with. And it's quite a stable, and just about anybody you could think of that's high profile in the nonprofit world in Rochester, they have worked with. So yes, there's some regulars that they do yearly, and again in the last couple of years, we've reached out looking to do some bigger shows. For example, the Holy Childhood Wine at Center Ice. That's a food and beverage tasting event at the Tim Hortons Iceplex, and the Dogs are doing it now every year, 700 people, and we raised a ton of money. We just did the Ronald McDonald Gala at the Convention Center for 400 people, where they raised, I think it was $240,000 in one night with the help of, with the help of the Dogs. So so that's so it's a little bit of both. They have their regulars that contact them, and then we've been reaching out as well. As a matter of fact, we got one that I'm producing November 15th, Toys for Tots dinner show with the Dogs at the Italian American Community Center. And Toys for Tots is the United States Marine Corps.
Right.
They literally own it.
I haven't heard that about the Toys for Tots.
I remember one of the first ones I went, Lighthouse played at the
I was at that,
Mm-hmm.
You had to bring some canned goods for donation.
Well, now it's toys.
Now it's toys.
It's toys, yeah.
Toys
How
for
many
Tots.
fundraisers do they do a year?
Well, it's a good question, because their model, when they got this going, it was 7 years ago when they formalized the Dogs. Their model was no more than once a month, and actually a little bit less than that. So they were doing, 10 to 12 a year. Well, they're now up to 15 a year, and we're having to turn people down because we just can't accommodate everybody.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's
strictly
spot
like
on.
top 40 type stuff, or
it's a rock and roll party band. As a matter of fact, we're going to do a Holy Childhood event, and it's going to be a sock hop. I need to raise some money for a new PA system for Holy Childhood's auditorium, and I figure the best way to do it is let's make it a party and let's make it a sock hop. So you pay your money, you get a pair of socks at the door, and you dance all night.
I'm trying to raise some money for a '63 Corvette split window.
I'm reminded,
it's like 6 figures now.
I am reminded, though, by this that I've traveled a lot of the back roads of upstate New York in my job, and one of the things I've seen that I've loved is I've seen bowling alleys where they advertise their weekly sock hops. What would be more cool than go to a bowling alley? It's someplace for a sock hop.
Yeah.
Remember the song Barefootin'?
Yeah, they used to do them at the YMCA's as well. They used to do sock hops. Sock hops, street dances.
It's getting so popular. Have you ever thought of sort of like the Blue Man Group, where you have like a Son of Dogs, where they have like some other people, just because there's so much demand?
I floated the idea, and it didn't go anywhere, of having a second band, an all-girl band called the Cats.
The dogs, the cats.
The Dogs and the Cats. It was soundly rejected.
I would like to be a part of that if it's possible.
That's a good idea.
I want to see the
Not as a
fight.
girl. I'm not going to dress up in drag, but just in case they need a drummer, I'm available.
Idea. I think it's really cool.
But as I told John, we were talking before the show, and that's when all the best content comes out. Sorry, but we go all over the place on the carnival, and we're talking about our wide music scene. So I just wondered, Carl, what called you to get into photography and then also become part of the scene?
When I was in high school, I was an art major, but I didn't think I could make a living doing any, my brother was an artist, so I could see how he was, trying to make a living doing his art. And so I went into teaching. So I was a teacher for 30 years. And
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I was a special ed teacher. I worked with people with autism.
Oh, man. How cool.
Where was that?
I worked for an ARC. I worked in California, and then I worked for an ARC and BOCES out of Spencerport.
I student taught for a couple of years in music. That's about as far as I got.
You what?
I subbed in music for like 2-3 years, and that's about as far as in the teaching thing I got.
But, so when I thought about retiring 18 years ago, I thought, what do I want to do? I just don't want to retire. I want to have something else to do. So I had always done photos, and I was married to a musician, so I'd always taken pictures of him. So a friend said, why don't you get a digital camera, and I'll refer people, because she was getting out of doing wedding photos and stuff, because they bought a restaurant. So I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe that would be something that I could work into as a retirement career, a second career. And so that's what I did. I bought a low grade, a starter digital, and then I've upgraded through the years and upgraded my equipment a little. And 11 years ago, when I filed for divorce, I started hanging out with musicians again. He didn't play a lot. He played in California all the time, but he was a Latin musician, so he's Hispanic, so he played Latin music. Mm-hmm. So he played here a little bit with a big Puerto Rican band. They're little orchestras. There's 10 people in them. Yeah. They got a marimba, they got a whole
big percussion session.
Yeah. They got all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So, but it wasn't lucrative because, he was driving to the city and coming home at 4 o'clock and making like $40. So he quit doing that, and he ended up doing liturgical music for the Spanish Mass for a long time because he played piano and keys. He played bass in the band, but he played piano and keys. So I was used to being around musicians because I'd been married to one, and I had I was going out and getting out, and I started hanging out with and going out, and Mara Dady and I used to hang out a lot, and Mara Dady introduced me to a lot of people that she knew that she'd grown up with because she grew up in the music scene, and then I started meeting people, and then I
that kind of explains why you're so good at when you take pictures. You're always like, I know you've done a bunch with my groups, and like you're very good at prompting and getting good poses and
angles.
Yeah, and that's good because it's not like, okay, I'll take the You're really into it, and I think that's great. You help out. You get the most out of the people you're photographing.
Thank you.
Well, I do weddings. You have to have an eye.
Thank you.
Even when I take pictures, I like taking pictures myself. Everybody probably knows that because I try to get a photograph with every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
I got a picture of you with Carmina Peace.
Yeah, you did a great job at the.
Which is a nice. That's a nice memory.
It is. Yeah, I really appreciate
that. I like the cactus in the background.
Hey, Carl, I got to ask you this. So you're everywhere. 2 questions. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite event? This is a dangerous question to ask. Mm-hmm. But what's your favorite event to shoot? And then do you have a favorite subject? Who's the most photogenic? Who loved the camera the most?
That man down there.
I know. I photographed you in how many bands?
I know.
How many bands have you? Susie, you play. I think when I met you, you were playing with Susie with Anonymous Willpower.
You did Brian.
Brian, yeah.
And didn't you do In the Mix? You did that one.
In the Mix when you were playing with them, yeah.
I'm a ham, and you stick a camera in my face, I'm gonna mug, That's the way.
I don't have a favorite.
Waldo's, where's Greg?
I don't have a favorite. The easiest people to photograph are people that, when they're performing, you can see they're into their music and they actually perform. Some people are so nervous about being on the stage, they just are kind of, wooden. Yeah. But the easiest people to photograph are the ones that move around and do stuff.
Yeah, you catch some great
because then you see how they feel when they're moving around and they're doing stuff and they're grimacing and they're
you catch some
looking up
at
the sky or whatever they're doing. Then you see what I want to capture is I want to impart what they're feeling in the music and catch those moments and so.
And you do.
The ones that are the easiest to photograph are those kind of people. The ones that are the hardest are the people that don't move.
Right.
And there are people that don't move.
Right. It's hard for drummers because drummers were sitting down in the background.
Right.
Now, I learned many, many years ago, I like to, like a sponge, absorb everything I can. And one of my favorite drummers early on as a kid was Dino Donnelly from the Rascals. Mm-hmm. And Dino was always very animated.
Real showy, yep.
And I tried to pick, you try to pick up little bits and pieces from different musicians. As a drummer, I would obviously migrate to the drummers. But Dino was very animated. And I remember so many shows that he did that he'd just be all over the place. His movement, his facial expressions.
Did he twirl sticks and stuff like
twirling
that?
Twirling this. He was probably one of the best at twirling sticks, no doubt. Both hands.
Yeah.
When I was with Circus in the early days, Jimmy Selinsky was our Jimmy C. Was our lead singer, and Jimmy would turn to me, turn his back to the audience, and we'd be finishing a song, and I'd be swishing on the cymbals. And on a count of 3, Jimmy would jump up, and I would jump up out of my seat, and we'd both go up in the air for, a couple feet and come back down and finish the song. I mean, that's performing. That's performing.
Right. I got to correct you on something. You said drummers always sit down. I don't know if you'll remember this, but years ago, you did a show with my son at the Brew House.
Okay.
And I don't remember the song or the songs, but at the end of one song, you stood up and you did a huge ending, going around the drums and the cymbals. I'm sure you don't remember.
I don't.
But I do, because drummers are usually always sitting on their butts, and you were out of your chair.
I was doing my Dino thing, man, right there.
I saw
That's fun to do. I've done that a couple times.
I saw do that, though, was years ago I saw Deke Dickerson with those straitjackets, and they had a drummer then Sugar Ball. They seem to be Spinal Tap with drummers. Now they have Gringo Star. He came out with the thing on, like the 2 drums doing that. But one thing about photography I've looked at is the idea of the shot, catching like the iconic moment. In sports, there's the one of Y.A. Tittle. When he lost, he never won a championship.
Yeah.
But I was reading a book recently. Everybody thought we were crazy. Brooke Hayward and Dennis Hopper in the 60s. And a lot of people don't realize what a photographer Dennis Hopper was and an art collector. And there's this one shot of L.A. You can find it online. It's from the 60s. They call it the iconic shot of L.A. at the time that he took.
Yeah.
But now my friends, I'll take like a few pictures a year. We'll do selfies. It'll be, make sure it's my good side.
My good side, yeah. I always say that. Yeah. Make sure you get my good side.
What side is that?
My back.
But every now and then when you take a photo, you just go, wow, I really caught a moment. This looks really good.
Yeah, I love taking pictures.
Yeah, those are the money shots.
The money shots, yeah, there it is.
Well, you can't miss with Greg again, obviously.
Well, I do have a question. Well, thank you. So when you're on the side and you're trying to be secretive, I'm assuming you're trying to be a ninja sort of, Do you not like it if people turn their head and look at you?
No, I don't care what they do.
Like I'm just, purposely, hey, check it out.
I'm an observer, and I'm photographing an experience. That's all. I'm an observer, and whatever anybody does is fine with me.
All right.
I'm not going to. No, I mean, if they're performing, I'm not going to direct them.
Yeah.
It's when I'm trying to do portraits, I'm trying to catch you, is when I got to direct you.
Do you have any advice for any musicians as to how to dress, behave, prepare, or anything like that?
I would say, I always tell people when I do portraits, don't wear your Hawaiian shirt.
Right.
Don't wear, don't all dress with different plaids. Stuff like that. Wear black. Wear a white shirt and black pants. Or wear something where you look uniform so we look at you and we see you. And if you're holding your instrument, we see your instrument. We see, we're looking at you. We're not looking at your clothes in this instant.
Right.
When you get on the stage, wear whatever you want sometimes. But I always tell people if I'm going to photograph them, try to look uniform and, keep the Hawaiian shirts at home.
I got to tell you this. So tomorrow, one of my jobs that I really don't have time for is real estate. Since I sold my, my wife says you're a moron. You have 6 jobs. You only get paid for one. You don't have time to do it. And she's right. But anyway, so I still have my real estate license. I've had it for 20-something years. We have an office meeting tomorrow, and we're required to wear a Hawaiian shirt. Right now, here's the sad part. I have one.
So it's a bad shirt.
That's okay. I like Hawaiian shirts, but there's a time and a place.
It's just like when you're on TV. I remember when we did the XXI on stage, they told you don't wear any plaids, don't wear any stripes.
Right.
Because it buzzes.
The camera stripes, right.
It glows.
Well, when you edit, you can, if you buzz in on them, if you get close. So if I've taken pictures of people with those on, I try to take them a little further away because I know if they're closer, the closer you get, it's going to vibrate. If you get close, you can see it.
When you watch old movies, too, the way they were dressed back in the 40s and 50s, they were always wearing those patterned jackets and things like the tweeds, and they have to really edit those and digitize it out because it's like it's always buzzing.
I think in the industry they call it blooming.
Blooming. They use the term buzzing, but it's the same thing.
The old movies.
Yeah, there's a story from Lemmy when Fast Eddie Clark left the band, and so he got Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy. And Brian Robertson liked to do sort of like picture that sort of 80s with the headband. Right. And Lemmy's looking at him like, it's like, I'll give you some money. Go buy some black jeans. He goes, and what Robbo said was, no, it's my look. So Lemmy pauses in Lemmy's fashion, and he goes, okay, but no shorts.
There you go.
I think that's the thing, too. Like, you look at some people, they look like a band. They're putting on a show.
Yeah. Right.
Then there's other people who look like they came off the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And
we've talked about the attire before. Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's important how you present yourself. But I think it's also, you also have to take in the venue you're going to. If you're going to an outside venue and it's 90 degrees, then I would say, you could probably get away with dressing like anything.
However,
stay cool.
Please, no shorts. No black socks and sandals.
Oh, God. I know.
No.
Please.
I know. That drives me nuts.
My firm belief in that. Yeah, old school thinking. And, old school is the best.
I always make the joke. It looks like some of these guys, they just got off the couch from watching TV and went to the gig. They don't take any time to
go. I use the term, and it's not a mean term. I call it sort of a gimmick band where you have an image that has nothing to do with it. But I'll go use one of my favorite bands, the Beach Boys, which are almost the Pendletons. Right. They were promoting a Southern California lifestyle. Yeah. Now, they're all dressing. Now, the truth was, the only surfer was Dennis, even as Woody living down at the beach. But you're promoting, and yes, you hope you have to try to draw them in with the image, then the music will hook you. But you're looking at bands and how people dress. It's like, no, a good one I'll use, like the New Romantics in the 80s. They all sort of dressed like very well dressed that way. And I think it always been like the irony being like the Stones and the Beatles, where you had the Mop Tops were these tough guys from Liverpool, while the Stones were these posh London kids. But the way they dressed and had the attitude, you thought they were these like thugs.
Well, the Beatles dressed in leather in the beginning.
And look at how they influenced fashion for how long.
They did.
The mods and stuff.
Look at how bands influenced
How about Nehru jackets?
Right? Oh, God. That didn't last too long.
The Nehru collar,
The Nehru collar.
I remember during grunge, which was a made-up term, watch the movie Hype, about dressing like with the flannel or the Docksiders. Doc Martens.
Okay.
I photograph for this woman in Rochester. It's called Medusa Productions. She calls herself Granny Goth, and she does goth stuff, and I photograph. They have goth musicians that come, and the musicians that come have long hair, have lace ruffles and shirts, and brocade jackets, long brocade jackets.
I love that shit.
And they look like they walked out of the this 17
Edwardian era,
right?
They actually look like Prince,
and they look, and it really. And it's the whole atmosphere. Everybody dresses up, so it really adds to it. They couldn't come on stage with a T-shirt and shorts on, or, it really adds to it sometimes. And if you're trying to make a point, I think that like the tribute bands. They dress like the bands they're representing.
I'm not going to name names. They're probably really nice guys. I didn't really know them. So years ago, I would see this band, and it would be the weirdest band you would ever see the way they dressed, because the singer sort of tried to look like Kevin Dubrow, but then you had the guitar player pull this guy out of a Southern rock band. It was like this weird mismatch of the way they dressed, where it was like, okay, we'll start a band. You play drums, you play bass, come up on stage.
You know, the way you dress is all part of the presentation of entertainment.
Right.
And it's interesting. My son is friends with Joe Bonamassa, who is he's on everybody's top 5 list, and I know Joe fairly well, I guess, but when he was very young, he started out young. He played at Jeff Springett's club, Red Creek, right? I think several times. And as he got older, he got better, but the presentation was lacking, and he went through a metamorphosis where he cleaned up, he lost weight, he started wearing white shirts with a sport coat.
He's got the suit thing now.
Right. And first time I saw him perform like that, to me, that elevated the whole performance, and it reminded me so much of our dear friend Joe Beard.
Joe Beard
is right.
Always has a suit on her.
Always
sport coat.
Always, and that's part of the presentation. As a matter of fact, to Joe, kind of on this subject, talking about entertainment. Last time he played Rochester, he's going to be here, I think, the end of the month. But last time he played Rochester, we were invited to go down and hang with him for the afternoon. And we talked at length about what he does, what my son does. But Joe said something very interesting, and I remember this oh so well, and he's so right on this. He said, people think I'm a guitar player. Yeah. He said, I'm not. And so there was kind of that pregnant pause. And my son and I looked at him. He goes, I'm an entertainer who plays guitar. When people come to my shows for 2 hours, their expectation is they're going to be entertained.
Right.
And it really, I mean, he really hit the nail on the head on that one.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. I mean, look at Chris Isaac. He always wears the flashy rhinestones. That's his thing. Yeah. You know, he wants to be that sort of quasi-Texas cowboy big deal. You know, it's cool. Yeah. I mean, it has to match what you're doing.
Or like Billy Gibbons said, our image change is just a couple of scissors away.
Right.
But I'll give you a good example. Anybody ever see that? Nobody's ever seen this movie. There's a movie called The Idolmaker. And it's based on sort of Fabian and all this. But a guy, he's a producer that he finds stars, but what the biggest thing is, he looks for some talent, but like the first star sort of leaves him. He's got a voice, he's got the face. He gets a kid, can't really sing or anything else, but all he does is, they call him Cesare. They put posters all over this look, and it sells out. And that's the big part about it. And I think people don't get that's part. People want to come out. I want to hear good music, but to be entertained. Like I will say, Kiss are entertainers.
Right.
You get them, Van Halen and David Lee Roth as a showman. You can pull in and you go, wow, maybe that guitar player is not bad.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kiss. I was never a huge Kiss fan. However, I saw them play live several years ago, and it's among the top live shows I have ever seen.
Yeah, it's a show.
It's a show. It was incredible. And it was really interesting when they came out. They said, we're a rock and roll band. There's no tricks. There's no tracks. We play live. And they did.
Not these
days.
Killed it.
That was several years ago.
Paul Stanley's like talking to you like this, and his vocals are good. So what do the Dogs dress like when they're on stage?
Well, it's interesting. The Dogs have a wardrobe going everything from funny red suits to funny blue suits to Amerks jerseys emblazoned with their logo. Whatever the situation is, they've got wardrobe to fit the event.
They just hired a female singer, didn't they, recently?
Yes, they did. Chrissy Ferraraccio. She's an experienced vocalist. She replaced Corinne Feinstein. Corinne and actually Lou Germano were Dogs and always will be Dogs. They both retired. And Christy is Frank Shroud's sister-in-law, and she sang with Frank, and I can't remember if it was an East Coast Connection or somewhere around that time. But she really has energized the show. She gets it. She sings great. She's really one of the boys, one of the Dogs.
All right. I haven't seen them with her just yet. The last time I saw the Dogs, it was just the guys. I think it was in between.
It might have been before Corinne or in between.
I think it was in between because they were at. In fact, I saw you there. There was a fundraiser at Capone's in Webster.
Oh, that was the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame
That's
thing.
right.
Okay,
you're right.
And it was just the guys that were there
correct.
for that show.
You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then right after that, Corinne joined.
Okay.
That was December of 2023.
Okay.
Oh, and Carla, we rarely hear photographers on, so I can ask you: do you have any photographers you're sort of influenced by? Like, I was just thinking my own, like of Dion Arbus. It's somebody who might know who she is.
I love Diane Arbus.
I think I always go with the pronunciation. Is it Diane or Dion? I forgot if she does.
I don't know, but I know who you mean. I like
finally someone.
I like her Brits. I like Ansel Adams, of course. He's kind of a classic. I like Annie Leibovitz. I like her early work. I like her early work for Rolling Stone. I think her early work for Rolling Stone was revolutionary, and it helped all of those musicians that she photographed just by having her photograph them, because she photographed them in a way nobody photographed them before.
Right.
You know, think of the picture of John Lennon and Yoko. John is in a fetal position, totally nude, and Yoko's totally clothed and just laying next to him.
Yeah.
You know, those were iconic images.
Revolutionary almost. Yeah.
They were.
When I hear her name, I think of that. That Rolling Stone cover.
She's done more like fashion stuff, and she did this whole series where she dressed all these famous people up like nursery characters and stuff, and I didn't like that at all. I thought that was I like journalistic documentary photography. I don't like stuff that's set up and contrived. It was too contrived.
Carla, I got a question about, I think I know the answer to this, but about the legalities involved in your profession. I think most people are under the impression that when they hire you to take photographs, they own the photographs. Can you clarify that?
I own everything. You know, that's my intellectual property. But what I tell them is, I'm going to give you these pictures and I'm not going to watermark them. But they're still mine. They're using them.
The photographer always owns the photograph.
The photographer, like the painter always owns the painting. The mechanic that puts his car together always owns that car he put together. Can
you hire somebody and in the contract purchase the photos outright from you, or does that never happen?
Can I hire somebody?
No, somebody hires you to photograph an event, and they say, we want to own the photos outright.
Oh, I've never had anybody do that. I said, here, they're yours. But
you want credit.
But people will say, photo credit. Yeah, because if they don't, I call them on it, especially if they use it for something and they have cropped my watermark off, which I find extremely rude to anybody that has a watermark and then not give them credit. So I call people on it, and
I think that's great.
I'm sorry. If you think I'm a bitch, that's too bad. That's my work. That's my blood, sweat, and tears. And you just used it, and you didn't even give me credit.
The problem I found, I have one of my really good friends is a comic book artist. I know a lot of artists, musicians. People don't. Seriously, maybe you've seen this yourself. People don't get what you do is actually work.
Yeah.
They're like, I can write this.
Right.
I got my phone here. I can take a picture.
I said to one band, I said, why don't you hire me? You knew you could use some promos. Oh, okay. They go, well, we're just gonna take cell phone pictures for now. Okay.
How did that work?
Thanks a lot.
But see, that's the other thing. It's like shooting yourself in the foot. If you're trying to succeed, you got to have the basic raw materials, which is good outfits, good presentation, good pictures, good promo.
And that's it. If you've got really cruddy pictures, and then the other band has these professional looking pictures, and somebody looks at them, who's the band that has taken more time to present themselves and to do their homework?
Sure.
right?
I mean, I've seen some posters. It's obviously they're in somebody's backyard. There's a picket fence or some kind of stockade fence behind them. It's like, really? How much work did you actually put into this, you know? I mean, I don't know.
Well, you're used to, like, us preparing for 24 hours in our cave for a podcast.
That's right.
But I want to just go back for a second. We talked about presentation. One of the greatest shows I've seen this century was Nick Cave at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia. And the thing was, it was more like, if you love his music, but the way he presents himself and everything, is just, you can't take his eyes off him. But that was just a little segue. I have to ask you, being a photographer, what are your thoughts on AI?
I think that people don't know how dangerous it could be. I think it's very. I think people don't know about it, and I think the people that know about it could really use it for inappropriate things.
I'll be honest, like on Facebook, I just try to be, in our crazy times, I just try to be like a court jester. But I look at a lot of photographs, I'll go, I'll post this funny. Wait a second, I can honestly not tell if somebody took this picture or not.
No, if you look.
Well, some are obvious.
If you look, some are obvious, and like the ones of people with 6 fingers. Those are interesting. I think we all know the one I referred to. Yeah. But anyway, I think that it needs to be. There needs to be some regulation of it.
There's going to be. There
needs to be, just like everything else, is regulated. I do, because I think in the wrong hands it could be very dangerous, because they can do video and they can put words in people's mouths.
Yeah.
They can, they can make people say all kinds of things. Yeah. And I've seen some examples of why you have to really be aware of this. Yeah, I think it could be a good thing, but I also think it really needs to be.
They tackled that. I watched a Blue Bloods episode, and some guy did a video of the police commissioner saying stuff he never said.
Right,
and
exactly.
And he's sitting there. He's just livid. He's like,
And they can do that. Yeah. They can make anybody say anything.
But there's a video of me already winning the gold medal at the Olympics in the pole vault.
Our first Olympian! Yay!
Thank you for coming today.
You know what I said? I said about this? I had a long talk about social media with one of my friends a few weeks ago, and I said, the thing with technology, I mean, I'm very thrilled for medical advancements. Some of us, I wouldn't be here probably without them. But we don't catch up. It takes decades for us. It evolves so much faster than us. And we can't wrap our heads around it. Like, I would like to see, influencers be just like a fad and be gone. Yeah. And I think you can't put back in Pandora's box. You have to live whatever's coming out. But you have to learn to adapt to it and then, how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. So, John, do you do promotion or managing, or what other things do you do?
Yeah. Well, this kind of goes back to 1995, 1996. I joined the Holy Childhood Board of Directors. And I was involved in fundraising and public relations and events. And I served for 25 years and retired, although I'm still a volunteer helping with fundraising and events. And it was kind of a natural thing. When I sold my stores, I had some time, and everything kind of came together at once that I said, I kind of like doing this. I mean, I'm way past the age of performing. And in my era, because I'm an old guy, I was in bands from 61, 62, and that's 1961, not 1861, right? To the very early 70s. So my time has long passed, but I've always had a passion for music. I've been involved in one form or another my entire life. My son's a musician. So
it's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, a couple more lessons, you'll be okay.
Phenomenal.
Right? Yeah.
Phenomenal.
But it was kind of a natural thing, and before I knew it, I had created this, I call it a shell, Maestro Management. And it really was, my son was 12 years old, and so I was trying to get him out there, and he started to play professionally at 12. And it was really, it was, when I called a venue or I called a promoter or a club owner and say, hi, this is the guitar player's father. It didn't fly.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't fly. So I said, all right, let me create Maestro Management. And so now the management company calls.
You're a representative.
I'm a representative of Maestro Management. I want to talk to you about booking this young man.
Good plan.
Right. And so as time went on, things started coming my way. And so coming back full circle, a good share of the stuff that I do, that I promote or produce, is for the nonprofit world. I've been very blessed in my life. I'm not a rich guy, but I don't owe anybody anything, and I've got the freedom, especially at my age, to do what I want to do. And that's a passion for me, is helping nonprofits, particularly Rochester area nonprofits.
That's awesome.
So music has been the vehicle. I do other stuff where I get paid, or I just help. Ron Carter Trio performed last night at Hochstein. Tony Brown is the producer, and of course Ron was inducted, I think, in 2014 or 2015 to the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. David Hochstein was inducted about the same time, and I met with Tony a week or so ago, and he's got a management company, and about a couple years old, and he's really smart. And he's a good guy, and so I said, let me help you where I can. So I did some promotion for him, to help Mr. Carter, to help Hochstein, and that's really what I love to do. But again, the majority or half of the stuff I do is really for the nonprofit world.
And I think the churches especially, they really can use the help.
They can,
because their rep is floundering.
What's happening in the nonprofit world, and not to take a left turn,
it's what the Park Carnival's about.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, when I produce events to benefit a nonprofit, sponsorship is key. Because the cost of producing an event now, even on a small scale, is significant.
Right.
And so you need sponsors, and in the last couple, 2, 3, 4 years, it's become very competitive in the nonprofit world for sponsorship money, and budgets have shrunk because the people who typically have a line item budget in their financials for events, for donations, those budgets have shrunk because their costs have gone up, and they've had to take that money and put it to business operations. So it's gotten really tough, to your point, for everybody in the nonprofit world. We're beating our brains out.
I mean, grants only go so far, and all that.
Yeah, and grants are very competitive these days. I mean, and you need. It's an art in writing grants, and there aren't that many professional grant writers out there that are on the loose. So I say it's tough, but it's rewarding.
Right.
When you can help somebody, you can raise the money, you can increase their visibility, their profile. It's very rewarding.
I mean, I suppose once you get it done once or twice, then it kind of can sail on its own a bit.
It's
kind of rap, and it gets easier probably.
Yeah, you get you get a little bit of momentum.
Right.
You reminded me when you said about I'm the guitar player's father. You know what it reminded me of? Back then, I did it. I don't know if any of you did it. Me and my friends and I would go to Penny Arcade with our Black Sabbath shirts. Yeah, we bad. Oh, here's our parents picking us up. Yeah. Get me an ice cream. Get me. But also, we have to go. That old business you had, we all know of, Music Lovers.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had a good run. I got out of school in 70. I was at Fisher as a business major.
Fisher alum here, too.
Yeah.
Class of 90.
What year?
Class of 90. I mean, class of 2020.
2020?
No, 90.
Yeah, well, I was back a little further. I was officially it was 69, but I took a year off, so I think I was 70. And I took my music courses at Nazareth, which was very difficult to do at the time. The chair of the business department, when I approached them to say, Dr. So-and-so, I'd like to take music courses at Nazareth. And he said, what do you want to do that for? And I said, well, I think I want to be in the music industry, in some way, shape, or form. He said, no. So I thought, all right, I'll just bug the heck out of him. And I did. And finally he said, just go do it. Fine. I'll give you permission if they agree. So went to Naz, and it was there for 3 years, give or take, 2 to 3 years, which is where I met my dear friend Jack Alaco, who we've all talked about. Jack has got 11 Emmys for music. He is an accomplished composer and arranger. He's done TV shows, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful. He's done movies. As a matter of fact, he's doing a composition for the Nazareth 100th anniversary, which is in September. He'll be premiering that. But anyway, when I graduated from Fisher, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I got a job at RF Communications. My uncle was was production foreman there, and I did that for about a year, and then I figured out, you know what, I want to be in the music industry. I saw an ad in the Democrat and Chronicle, which actually had ads at that point in time, help wanted, and it said piano salesman or salesperson wanted, and it was Music Lover Shop on Main Street, next to the old Eddie's Chop House. Right. And I, not knowing I was totally wrong for the job, I went down and put on my best bass, and the owner said, well, this might not be right for you, but see me in a week. And I said, okay. So I came back in a week, and he said, I want to give you a job. I said, good. Doing what? He goes, and I will never forget this. He said, your job is to learn. He said, wow. I can have you doing all different things, but your job is to learn. Do you want the job? I said, yes. And that was 1970 or 71. And
that's a super opportunity.
Yeah, I didn't realize the opportunity at the time. But in 1980, I bought out one brother, and 3 or 4 years later, I bought out the other. And I had a great run. I was tired. In 98, my son was born. My daughter was 3. And I had opened a store in Syracuse, so I was traveling back and forth between Rochester and Syracuse, and I had no life, zero. Yeah. And so I talked to my wife, and I said, you know what, reluctantly, I think it's time to sell. I want to see my kids grow up, and I want to have a family, a family life. And she said, do it. So I sold the stores. I hung out for a year because I had a personal guarantee on the financing, and after that, I golfed at the St. John Fisher Golf Course until 2 of my partners passed away, and I said, I better go back to work. Yeah.
I stink at that course. It's too narrow for me.
Well, it was made for old guys like me. And I wound up getting at the suggestion of my accountant, I wound up getting my real estate license, and I've had my license for 23 years now. And although I don't work that much anymore, I still enjoy it. I still have a client base. It's very rewarding. It's a crazy market right now, but fortunately, again, I'm in a position where I don't have to rely on that income to have a good life. So that's the story.
John, I was talking to you. I always say our most interesting conversations before we start. I was talking to John about how business and how much respect I have for people like him. And I know about small businesses from my work at a comic book shop, but also, as you know, Greg, my uncle owned Clover Pole Supplies. I knew all these. Because of him, I know all these businessmen, and keeping something like that going and being successful when the fail rate is so...
It's a bear.
It's almost like crazy, like it's one of those, if you know, you're a fool to do it.
I mean, back then it was you and Duke Spinner.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was funny. We moved, Music Lover Shop moved from 375 East Main to Monroe and Clover in March of 77. And Duke bought our building. And we vacated because downtown was really rough at that point in time. It was on the decline. There was no money to rehab.
That was my first drum set.
The business district. And so Duke bought the building, and the building had problems like you can't believe, including asbestos, among other things. And it was not a good decision, and I think, unfortunately, it accelerated getting out of an already tough business. And I want to say just one thing. You mentioned keeping things going. I have a lot of friends who are still independent music retailers, and I think everybody knows who they are. I don't want to go through the names so I don't forget anybody. But, if you can, don't buy online.
Yeah.
Patronize your local music store. It's a struggle just to survive and be in business every day because you're fighting the online behemoths.
Right.
So if you can, support local music and support local musicians.
And I would also say too, you might pay a little more, but you're going to get expertise, get people who hands-on. I have friends who like work in these industries too. You're gonna, they're gonna know you. You're gonna really get what you want. Where you can order something online,
and you have somebody to go to if it screws up.
Well, you're gonna have a relationship, and you need that.
Yeah. Did you know Gary Zepting?
Gary worked for me.
Yeah, because I went to NAS with him.
He was a dear friend. I don't think people realize how talented Gary was.
He was.
He has producing credits for national bands that he was very low key. He was very humble.
Yep.
But what a great guy and a great musician as well.
Yep. He used to jam a lot of music.
Yeah, his family story is kind of sad. His brother Doug Zefting passed away years and years ago after a run in the city of Rochester. He had a heat stroke.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Gary passed away. I had sold Music Lovers, but I was still there again during this honeymoon period. And one day he didn't show up for work. And this is when the new owners had moved it to 12 Corners, the old Altiers shoe location. He didn't show up for work, and that was unlike him because Gary was clockwork.
Right.
Never missed anything. He was never late. And somebody went to the house, and he had passed away I think he was on the kitchen floor, literally. And there was an autopsy, and if I remember this correctly, he had an undiagnosed heart valve problem that, had it been diagnosed, it could have been easily repaired.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
I
He was what a great guy. And they say, and talented. Google him sometime, Gary Zefting.
But see what I mean, though, here where you're talking about, you wouldn't think you'd have anything to say and how time flies on here.
I'm boring.
Well, one thing I want to get to, unless I'm getting afraid we talked AI, that there's going to be pictures of me and Taylor Swift out there. So I want to try to, we're nearing the end, unfortunately. But we mentioned, you weren't here, Greg, but you have to tell the story. We were talking about Eddie Money. And you have a good Eddie Money story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is a weird one. So
From you? No.
I'll try to make it brief. I'll give you the Cliff Notes, Reader's Digest. So I worked at Chase Bank downtown here for like 16 years. So one day they decided, back when they had more money, I guess, okay, we're all going to go to Frontier Field for afternoon. We're going to go to a ball game, no work, we'll go. And, of course, I raised my hand. Can we drink beer? Oh, yeah, you can drink beer. Okay. So
the most important thing on the agenda, right?
Yeah, well, that's me. So I go there, and, I take a little break. I walk down by the concession down below there, and I see this crowd. And I walk over, and there's a table, and there's somebody sitting at the table, and it's Eddie Money. And he must have been in town for something, and he likes baseball, and he was signing 8x10s and doing stuff. And I had on this, because I'm a ham, I had a Wheaties shirt with a ball player on it, an orange Wheaties shirt. So I had to have that. So I had to wear that to the game. And Eddie looks at me and he goes, I love that shirt. Get the hell over here. And he signed it, and I still have the shirt.
Great.
Oh, no good.
Yeah.
You want to hear my Dylan
story? You
story?
took it to Paradise, though. I would have traded the shirt for that.
Yeah.
But this has been lots of fun. I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
What do you got a story about?
I got a story about Dylan.
You got one. No, we have plenty of time. There's no time on this thing.
You sure?
Yes.
You want to hear it? Well, I was a Dylan fan from the time I was 12. And, of course, I was too young to go to any concert. So when I was 12, my parents took me to Buffalo, and I'm trying to think of the Kleinham's.
Yeah.
He performed at Kleinham's, and it was when he was, his beginning of his career, so he was a heavy acoustic. It was before he turned electric. And so they took me the first year. The second year, he came back, and I went the second year with my parents again, and I was 13 this year. And I had an album. The times they are changing for them. I wanted to see if I could get it signed. So my parents let me go around the back, because in those days the performers used to come out the back door and get in a car and drive away, and be able to drive away. So he had performed with Joan Baez. He was traveling with Joan Baez, so he'd perform with her. So they were in a car, and there were a lot of people at the stage door, and they were in a car and trying to get out of there. And I was standing there in the crowd with my album, clutching my album, and I started crying because I thought, they're going to leave, and I'm not going to get it signed. And, I went into this big thing. Well, Joan Baez saw me, and she told the police officer to get my album. So I gave the police officer my album, and they both signed it. And he gave it back to me, and they drove away.
Did you quit crying then?
Yeah.
Do you still have the album?
No, somebody stole it.
Man.
Yeah, they stole it.
You know who stole it? Steve stole it.
I don't think somebody stole my signed Saxon album.
No, there's more. You want to hear the rest of it? No, there's more. There's a follow-up. There's a follow-up to this, okay? So I was 13. A couple of years later, a book came out, and I'm trying to remember the photographer.
Oh, boy.
That did the book, and he had been traveling with Dylan during that time, and there were all these photographs from that time. And it's a pretty thick book, and I can't remember his name. I have the book at home, but anyway, I was reading it, and then in the book it describes being at the effect that Dylan and Baez had on people. And, that traveling with him, what he saw and, what he witnessed with the fans. And he said, and I remember this incident in Buffalo, New York, and there was this little blonde girl in the crowd. She was clutching her album, and they signed it. And he described the whole thing. And he said, he was in the car with them, and he said, we talked about it when we went to our hotel. And we decided that we were on our way, and we decided we were going to invite you to go to the hotel with us. So we turned around, but everybody was gone.
Oh man. And you're like, no!
Yeah.
And he said, anyway, little blonde girl, I thought you'd like to know.
And he started crying again.
So then there was an article about the book in the Village Voice. I don't know if you remember the Village Voice back in the day. And I wrote the Village Voice, and the Village Voice did an article on me, the fan, from the book.
Wow.
Way cool.
When I was
story.
When I was 15.
We have to do a whole episode on rock stories.
Yeah.
Now I got a really brief one. Our good friend Jeff Bauman, who will be back here. So he told the story on the radio show. He's a kid in Boston. We were on a radio show, our friend's radio show.
Oh, yeah,
He's a kid in Boston. He's visiting Boston with relatives, and he gets the first Boston album. And remember, he gets in a taxi cab with his grandmother. A guy hails the cab and comes in, and he's looking at the album, looking at the guy, sees the guy looking at him. It was Brad Delp.
Yeah.
But the Dylan story, I got to know Ian McLaughlin a little. We became friendly acquaintances, and the story Ian tells about playing with Dylan was when he played with them. He's like, Bob keeps staring at me. Some of the other musicians told him, don't worry, Bob stares at you. He's nearsighted and he doesn't wear his glasses on stage.
He doesn't, yeah.
Last time I saw him, he was really good, too, which is glad.
Yeah, I've seen him several times. Yeah. I saw him when he was perform at the Fox Warfield in San Francisco when he was a Jesus freak. Remember when he went through the whole Jesus, the whole Jesus thing? Yeah.
I think he's a seeker. Like I said in the Rolling Thunder thing, he's looking for something like we all are.
Right.
He has said that whatever talent he had was divinely given to him because he doesn't know where it came from.
And his book's great, too, that
and
Modern
it would
Song
just
book.
come from...
If you haven't read that,
anywhere.
it is just fantastic.
Which book?
The thing about Modern Song, the philosophy of Modern Song.
I read
it's like talking to him. But we're wrapping up here, and it's been lots of fun to talk about what are the dogs doing, and what are you doing, Steve, and what are you doing, how we get hold of you, how you for photographs. Greg, you're all everywhere.
I'm floating right now. I've got nothing really lined up, so... if anyone's out there looking for a drummer, I'm available.
Yeah.
But I'm
going to serve cocktail weenies at a picnic.
That too.
He does all this.
I endorse Steve.
Let's see, what have I got going? The next The next big show that I'm producing is, I'm going to plug it, Marine Toys for Tots.
Please do.
November 15th, Italian American Community Center, right after Labor Day. Tickets will be available. It's going to be a heck of a show with the dogs.
The dogs?
The dogs are going to, it's going to be a rock and roll dance party.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and that's probably the most important
Shout
thing.
out to my friend, my great friend, my dear friend Rob DeCesar's parents, Nellie and Quintino, big members of the Italian community. And can we find the dogs online?
Very easy. Dogs for a Cause. CAUZ. That's their website and Facebook. You just have to go to the
remember,
dogs.
dogs is spelled Let The Dawgs Out.
DAWGS. Dogs.
Carl, if anybody wants to hire you for bands or anything, or
you know what? If anyone, any nonprofit has an interest in having the dogs help fundraise, you can contact me, John Dretto, at Maestro Management or my personal page on Facebook. Be happy to talk to you.
We might need that when our blimp breaks down to repair our Goodyear blimp. Carla, I'll see you out and about, I'm sure. But if anybody wants to hire you any band, how do we get it?
I'm on Facebook. I don't have a website anymore.
You're like me. We're like Luddites, probably.
And I'm on Instagram as Blonde on Blonde.
I
don't really advertise on Instagram. You can't really.
But are you open?
I'm on Facebook.
Are you open for people to approach you to do that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I just did a band called Mojo Blue, out of Livonia, and they were great. They do a lot of blues. They do a lot of cover, like 60s, 70s, whatever. And I also did a local twosome called Damn the Flood. And you should know one of these guys because he plays in Woody Dodge, Billy Lambert. But Woody Dodge has been around forever.
Yeah.
And John Gary's and Woody Dodge and Sean Sullivan, and I don't know the other guy's name. But Billy Lambert used to work at the Ace Hardware in town, so I used to, he just retired. But I saw, so those are two of the recent.
So you want music and a good rate, you go see this guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got one more thing.
Just one more thing.
It's in the Columbo. I have his autograph, as a matter of fact. On my autograph wall. October 27th at Bunsey's. Producing a benefit for the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, and it's a showcase. And I'm interested in showcasing particularly young artists who are starting out. It can be a solo duo, it can be a band who need some visibility. Would like to perform at a professional venue to benefit a good cause.
That's
so it's
cool.
October 27th.
The benefit of the local scene is like Adrian and Noon, Michaela Davis, B.B. Dang, Elena Austin,
you got it.
Julia Weatherhouse. All these people I've gotten to know, some I'm good friends with. We have a lot of really good talent out there.
And there's some that they need some exposure, they need some visibility.
Plus Greg,
I've already been in trouble for exposure.
But what? You ruined the whole. No, I don't have to get a new code.
I want to put a little plug in though. I do photos regularly for the Smoking Eagle in Leroy. And
I was going to mention that.
I have a gallery.
I heard they got great wings too.
They do.
Yes.
See, my friend John lives right around the corner from there.
I have a gallery in the back there.
Yeah, you have a lot of bands from there that we performed there a couple of times. That's a great stage.
Yeah.
And I also do work at Drum Roll in the Genesee.
Well, those are good. Chuck and all those are good friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I love sushi. Anyways, go there.
Wow.
We could do a whole show on promotion. Now, we usually play a song by one of the bands at the end, and I don't think we have anything of the Dogs, and it would be like a cover, anyways.
There's probably something online.
Oh, absolutely.
If we could find it. Otherwise,
videos.
we actually have my friend. I was out with my friend Alyssa, and she gave Greg a side CD, so we could steal something from that.
If you open it, it's worth anything.
Okay. We'll find a Dogs thing, and we'll leave it to your imagination. Surprise!
Yeah.
Terrific.
But thanks, everybody, John.
Yeah. Thank you.
You too, Steve. I have to thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Well, I like the